You're watching PaperLoud, stories you can feel, questions that change you. Because every truth has a voice. Loneliness is not always a storm that rips everything apart in one violent moment. More often, it feels like a quiet drizzle that seeps into the cracks of everyday life, drop by drop. At first, you barely notice it. Life seems normal. You go to work, you shop for groceries, you smile politely at the cashier. But slowly, almost invisibly, something shifts. The world feels colder. Every room you enter feels just a little emptier. Sometimes loneliness presses down like a dull weight on your chest. You breathe, but the air never feels enough. Your hands tremble slightly, even though no one has hurt you. Around you in the cafe, voices, loud laughter, glasses clinking against each other. Life buzzes, but all you hear is an echo. Deep down, your body already knows what your mind still tries to deny. Something is missing. Scientists often compare this process to rust, not the sudden collapse of a bridge that shocks everyone, but the slow erosion of steel over years. Loneliness rarely screams, it whispers, and yet its consequences can be just as destructive as any storm. But if loneliness can sneak in so quietly, could it also be fought back in quiet ways? Could small steps really make a difference? And if so, which of them actually work? That is the journey we start in this part. Psychological pathways. Psychology offers several tools to deal with loneliness, but let's be clear from the start. There is no magic switch. Loneliness is complex, layered, and deeply personal. What helps one person may do nothing for another. Still, there are methods that research shows can truly make a difference. One of the most well-known is cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. At its heart, CBT examines the inner stories we keep telling ourselves. If that inner voice constantly whispers, "You're not enough, nobody wants you here," then every silence in a group feels like confirmation. Every unanswered message feels like proof. CBT helps you recognize these patterns and challenge them. Instead of assuming rejection every time you learn to test your thoughts, maybe she didn't reply because she was busy, not because she dislikes me. Another proven method is acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT. It doesn't try to erase uncomfortable feelings, but teaches you to hold them without letting them control you. Picture yourself sitting in a small boat. The waves of loneliness are there, you feel them rocking you. But instead of fighting the water, ACT helps you learn to steer despite the waves. You may not calm the sea, but you can still move toward your values. And then there is mindfulness, the practice of pausing, breathing, and noticing. When you deliberately bring your focus back to the present moment, many fears about rejection lose their power. Studies show that just 10 minutes of mindfulness a day can noticeably reduce feelings of isolation. Because in that moment, you are no longer trapped in an endless loop of past hurts and future worries. You are here, now. These methods are not abstract theories locked away in psychology textbooks. They can be lived and practiced. Some people write journals to confront their recurring thoughts. Others use simple apps that guide them through short breathing sessions, and some choose professional support. The important thing is this: loneliness is not only a social condition, it is also a mental pattern, and patterns can be changed. Micro-interventions. Beyond therapy, researchers highlight another important pathway, what they call micro-interventions. The word sounds technical, almost sterile, but in reality, it is one of the most human things you can imagine. It's about the smallest interactions of everyday life and how they can slowly shift the feeling of loneliness. A smile at the bakery, a short exchange in the park, asking the cashier, "How's your day going?" These moments look trivial from the outside, but they act like small doses of medicine. Psychologists have shown that such micro-interventions measurably improve mood and well-being because the brain registers every single sign of resonance, no matter how tiny. For the nervous system, a nod of acknowledgement is already proof. You exist. You are seen. One study found that people who deliberately start just 3 brief interactions a day, no matter how short, report significantly less loneliness after only 2 weeks. Not because they suddenly discovered best friends, but because their brains stopped constantly sending the signal, "You are invisible." Think of it as training. Muscles grow through repetition. In the same way, the ability to feel connected grows through repeated small contacts. Every hello, every shared laugh, every eye contact is like a mini workout for the social part of your brain. Of course, it doesn't always work on the first try. Sometimes you smile and the other person looks away. Sometimes your question fizzles out, and yes, that stings. But the point here is not perfection. The point is persistence. Every attempt chips away a little bit at the wall of isolation. And here lies the hopeful part. Micro-interventions are accessible to everyone. They cost nothing. They demand no special skills. They only require a spark of courage. The courage to take that small first step, even if it feels awkward or forced. Because every time you say hello, every time you smile, every time you let someone step ahead of you in line, you are sending out a message, not only to them, but to yourself as well. I belong here. The chemistry of closeness and resonance as medicine. When people talk about loneliness, it often sounds like a purely psychological problem. Thoughts, feelings, inner patterns. But science makes it clear. Loneliness is also physical. Our bodies are designed for connection, and when that connection is missing, our biology shifts into imbalance. One of the key players in this process is oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. It is released when we hug someone, when we share a laugh, or even when we make simple eye contact. Oxytocin lowers stress levels, strengthens the immune system, and builds a sense of safety. That is why a single warm embrace can feel like medicine, not just in a metaphorical sense, but literally. Study after study confirms this. Couples who hold hands while watching a sad movie show fewer stress reactions than those who sit apart. Seniors who regularly pet animals have lower blood pressure. Choirs who sing together experience a measurable boost in oxytocin. Even simple touch, like a handshake, can start the release of this hormone. And then there are the endorphins, the body's natural painkillers. They flood our system when we laugh, when we dance, when we exercise. Researchers have found that after people laugh together, their tolerance for pain actually increases. It's as if the body sends a message. You are safe. You are not alone. This means that building closeness isn't just about comfort, it's about biology. Every touch, every laugh, every shared rhythm sets off chemical cascades that protect our health, and these cascades counteract the destructive power of loneliness. This is also the reason why people who live in warm, resonant relationships live longer. Not because they avoid all problems, but because their bodies constantly receive these small, life-giving doses of natural medicine. Resonance as medicine. Sociologist Hartmut Rosa gave this experience a name: resonance. Resonance means you speak and the world answers. You sing, and there is an echo. You laugh, and someone else laughs back. You exist, and you are noticed. Loneliness feels like the exact opposite. You speak into emptiness. Your words fade without a reply. Your gestures meet silence, and that silence can feel louder than any insult. Resonance is the medicine for that silence, and it doesn't take grand gestures to create it. Resonance can be as small as someone remembering your name, a bus driver who nods when you step on, a neighbor who holds the door open without rushing you. These signals may be tiny, but for the brain, they are massive. They say, you are connected, you belong here. Researchers have found that moments of resonance lower stress hormones within minutes. Heart rate slows, breathing deepens, muscles release their tension. It's as if the body whispers back, finally, someone sees me. And here's the surprising part. Resonance doesn't always depend on close relationships. Even strangers can spark it. A kind word at the right time, a smile exchanged at a concert, cheering together in a stadium when thousands of voices merge into one. All of these moments pierce through isolation, if only for seconds. That means the medicine against loneliness is not locked in clinics or only found in therapy rooms. It is out there in daily life. It lives in encounters that remind you, you are not invisible. One participant in a study described it like this. I thought I was depressed, but then a cashier asked me, how's your day? And actually looked at me. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I mattered. That is resonance, and it is powerful precisely because it is democratic. Everyone can give it. Everyone can receive it. The only challenge is to notice these moments and to let them count. Because once you start collecting resonance, you begin to realize loneliness may be strong, but resonance is stronger. Politics and programs. Loneliness is not just a private matter, it is also a public one. Entire societies are now beginning to understand that isolation can be as dangerous to health as smoking or obesity. Governments are slowly realizing if we treat loneliness only as an individual weakness, we miss the bigger picture. The United Kingdom was the first country to take a bold step. In 2018, the government appointed a minister for loneliness, a political position created after years of studies and public debate. This office coordinates nationwide projects, campaigns that break the stigma, community programs that bring neighbors together, and support networks for the elderly. The message is clear. Loneliness is not just a personal issue, it is a public health challenge. Other countries are beginning to follow. In Japan, the government has set up hotlines and programs against social isolation, especially for older people and single men in big cities. In the US, research grants and community initiatives are growing. And in Germany, debates are starting about whether loneliness should be officially recognized as a risk factor in healthcare policy. The numbers are sobering. Studies show that chronic loneliness can increase the risk of early death by up to 30%, and that makes it clear loneliness is not only an emotional burden, it is a cost factor for healthcare systems, for productivity, for the stability of societies. That is why political action matters, because no matter how strong an individual may be, loneliness cannot be solved by willpower alone. Structures, opportunities, and supportive environments are necessary, and only politics can build those at scale. Community projects. But it is not just about ministries and official programs. Sometimes the strongest antidote to loneliness grows in small places, from people who simply decide, we will change something here. Take the example of a repair cafe. A tensioner brings his broken toaster, sits down with a volunteer, and after an hour, the toaster works again. It is not really about the toaster. It is about the conversation, the laughter, the feeling of being useful. A simple act of repair becomes an act of connection. Or look at community gardens. People who may have nothing in common start planting side by side. One brings seeds, another brings tools. Over time, vegetables grow, but friendships grow too. Studies show projects like this not only improve nutrition, but also strengthen social trust. Even digital platforms can help when used wisely. In the Netherlands, an app was launched that matches seniors with students who have free time to chat. The result? reduced isolation for both sides. Because sometimes loneliness is not about lacking people, it's about lacking meaningful encounters. The power of these community projects lies in their simplicity. They do not promise to solve everything. They just create spaces where people can experience resonance again. Being heard, being seen, being valued. And here is the hopeful part. Such projects can be multiplied. They can spread from city to city, from neighborhood to neighborhood. They show that loneliness is not an unavoidable fate. It is a challenge that can be met together. Individual steps. At the end of the day, no government program and no community project can replace the most important step, your own. Loneliness can feel overwhelming, like a fog that wraps itself around you. But change rarely comes through one big leap. More often, it comes through many small, almost invisible steps. One of those steps can be the courage to say a simple, honest word. No, I can't today. Or, yes, I'd love to join. These words may sound small, but they mark the beginning of authenticity, because pretending to be someone else in order to fit in only deepens the inner emptiness. The price of belonging cannot be the loss of yourself. Another step is to notice and collect moments of resonance. The bus driver's nod, the laugh of a child, the colleague who asks how you are and really waits for the answer. These are not just little sparks, they are anchors. And the more of them you allow into your awareness, the stronger your inner compass becomes. Psychologists also recommend building what they call micro habits. This means that instead of setting huge goals, you start with tiny actions. Write down one thing you're grateful for before bed. Call one person a week, even if the conversation lasts only 5 minutes. Go for a 10-minute walk, not for fitness, but to open yourself up to chance encounters. And here's something important. Setbacks are normal. Sometimes you try and nothing changes. Sometimes you open up and silence is the answer. That hurts, but that does not mean the effort was pointless. Every attempt is a signal to yourself that you are still in the game, that you are not giving up on connection. Because the truth is, loneliness is not a storm that destroys everything at once. It's more like a quiet thief. It steals little moments, little joys, little hopes. And the only way to fight it is to reclaim those moments one by one. It is easier to stay silent, to withdraw, to close the door and tell yourself it doesn't matter. But silence changes nothing. What changes the world, your world, are voices. Your voice, even if it trembles, even if it is quiet at first. So start with a small word, a glance, a step. Collect resonance where you find it and dare to give it back. Because you are not invisible. And every time you speak, every time you reach out, every time you stay authentic, you push back the thief of loneliness. It may be easier to remain quiet, but becoming loud, becoming paper loud, can change everything. Stay vulnerable, stay connected, stay loud.